All right, it's 10:20, so we can go ahead and get started. Want to welcome everyone to the kickoff of our 2026 Meetup Guest Speaker Series. We've already had a couple of panels, but this is our first individual speaker. Before we get started, if anyone wanted to share where they're joining us from in the chat, go ahead and do that. And also share what you're most interested in learning about. We're going to have a treat. We're going to have Teangelo Bell, from the founder of DPL Success, and he's going to help us understand how to lead our teams to greatness. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed our panel session last month, which was also on leadership. So this is a good tie-in with that. So today's event is brought to you by Rainwater Growth. We empower busy professionals with training and tech insights. So if you haven't already, please check out our website, perhaps join our meetup, or attend one of our classes and schedule a call to learn more. As you can see, we're using Google Meet. The controls are pretty straightforward, but let's run through a few highlights. We have the mic and camera, which are right at the bottom. And initially, we're going to have the mics turned off, but the cameras are actually turned on for this event. Also, have the ability to enable captions. So normally I have captions on because some people prefer them. So you still have the ability to turn on your captions by using the button at the bottom of the screen. The screen share feature will remain turned off. I'm sure everyone has experienced the great experience of going to a Zoom call and being Zoom bombed and seeing things that maybe you weren't ready to see. So we're going to try to prevent that by turning off screen shares for everyone. If you like to share information about yourself or your company, feel free to drop that in the chat during the time. Also, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and throw those things in the chat as well. And we'll try to cover those questions once we get to our Q&A session. So a reminder, you probably have already noticed, but this presentation is being recorded. However, when we get to the Q&A portion, we will pause the recording so that everyone can feel free to ask the questions they really want to know about without it having to be on record. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Teangelo to talk about how to lead people to execute. So let me stop my share and turn it over to you.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? And good morning to everyone attending this morning. So I'm uber excited to have this conversation because when it comes to leading people to execute, it could almost seem like they should just get it. Like it's just an easy thing to do. So why aren't you getting it? But like anything that is great and of greatness, we have to work towards those things. You know, it doesn't just naturally happen. And so we want to be sure that we are setting our people up for success. And so we'll do that with confidence, clarity, and accountability. I am Teangelo. I am the owner and transformation architect of Dream It, Plan It, Live It. Dream It, Plan It, Live It is we create a structure. We help create structure that allow people to develop and build off of them. If it's your life, it's your career, your education, whatever it is, we want to help you build to get there. As a transformation architect, what I do is the architect designs and builds structures. There you go. I kind of explained it with DPL, same thing there. So we'll talk about that today, how to build frameworks and to ensure that you're reaching the goals and successes that you're looking to experience. So that's kind of a short intro about me. If you want to know more, just ask me. We'll get into a little bit about me as we go through this conversation. I do want to say thank you, O, for inviting me and allowing me to speak with your guest today. I truly appreciate it. And to the Rainwater Growth community, hi. Okay, so she mentioned the chat is there, so please feel free to use the chat. I love to have a back and forth. You know, we're going to talk about things. I'll mention the chat, so don't be afraid to drop things in there because your experience can help another person's experience. Your question or your aha moment can help the next person, and so we want to, you know, chat about that together and help one another to get those aha moments and to see a perspective that I may not have considered, but you may have, okay? And you might also pick up some tidbits for someone else. So be sure just to add to that part of it. We are going to be together for a mere 60 minutes. So I'm going to jam pack as much as I can into this because I want you to leave with value. I want you to leave this space with some new tools to move forward. Some new perspectives or maybe some refreshed perspectives. And also, what is some stuff that is old and we need to clear out? Let's get rid of that. We don't need to do that no more. So all of that's going to be a part of this moment. Now, I do know that when we're in this space, it can be unnerving, like, oh, I don't want to talk about this, that, and the other. But feel free. This is a safe space. And push come to shove. Matter of fact, if I do self-deprecation, I tell something kind of embarrassing about myself, that should allow you to be okay to be embarrassed a little bit too, right? Okay, so we're all humans and it's all a little murky out here. So let me think. Okay, here's a little something that's, I mean, I don't know if I'm embarrassed about it because I'm not, but here's a true fact. Spelling is not my strong suit. And when I say spelling is not my strong suit, I don't mean kind of. I mean, I can't rely on spell check. Because spelling is so off for me, it's just a dyslexic that I have that I need to put some other human eyes on it. If the other human don't look at whatever I'm designing or about to present, somewhere in there is going to be a word that I thought meant one thing, like perspective. And I mean, I'm not a special perspective, but that's my embarrassing thing, okay? I only share that with you. So as we're going through this, if you have an embarrassing moment you want to add to the chat, see, I shared. So you can also feel free to do so as well. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm laughing at myself because I'm a mess. All righty. Now, if you registered before this event, you would have received a pre-event exercise, okay? We are not going to majorly go through this pre-event exercise because it was meant for you to get your mind thinking, get warmed up, get primed up for this conversation because I want you to start getting the thoughts together. So when we get here, you're not coming from the beginning. Like, no, I want this to be of much value. So having that pre-event exercise would have helped you move forward. If you hadn't gotten a chance to do it, you can do it later. I would just say make sure you have those conversations with yourself because you would have asked, there's a number of things you would have gone through. But the three questions I'm going to point out to you was, what is one of your proudest moments in leadership? Okay. The next one is, what is one of those moments, what is an area of improvement for you within your leadership? And then if you were to dream bigger, what kind of organization would you build or develop if funding wasn't an issue? Okay. And resources wasn't an issue either. So yes, you have access to all the things. So when you think about that, that kind of helps you to align where you're going to move and where you're going to shake. So as we go through this conversation, knowing where you are strong, knowing where you need improvement, knowing where you want to go helps your brain already start to think about it in that specific way. So we're not being generic, but very specific. And as we go through this conversation, be specific. Once you know the route to get somewhere, you can always use the same methods to go a different direction. So don't think about, oh, I have to be thinking about this for these 6 different projects I want to do. No, think about this for the one project you want to do and then duplicate. Okay. Now, you also would have gotten a workbook when you registered. This workshop isn't going to like follow that workbook exactly because the workbook is designed for after the conversation. See, y'all, I come with jam-packedness, okay? I want to put in the work, okay? You don't do 2 or 3 reps with me. We about to pound this gym session out, okay? So you need to make sure you are here for the work. But if you have the workbook, I would say if you have it near you, that'll be great. So you can reference to it because I will point out a couple of things during the conversation. But if you don't worry. I'm going to explain it anyway, and there'll be a slide or two to add to that. But if you happen to have yours, you can write directly on it so you don't have to redo that work later. Yeah.
I added
Okay.
it to the chat. I
Oh,
pinned it in the chat.
perfect. So it's in the chat. So click that. Awesome. Okay. Let me see. Where are we? Do. Oh, I'm sorry, I got lost in myself there. So just so you know, I have come here today with my normal mission, which is to help people live life to the fullest. That's what I'm always doing, helping folks to get where they're trying to get to. But secondly, I came to shake up some things. Yeah, if I'm in the room, it's gonna be a little shaky going on. It's just gonna happen. It's just that's just how it be. Because I want you to start thinking differently. Not just new, but just different. You know, we've always seen the thing that way, as we have learned in our own personal journey, or folks have kind of given us. And so we want to take all of those things and just kind of put a little turn to it to see if there's more just around that corner. Okay. So I do want to share with you that at the end of the presentation, I do have a special bonus for you. So you'll have to wait to the end to get this bonus thing. What is the thing? Aha. Actually, is going to be an opportunity to have a one-on-one session with me. And so I will provide you that bonus link at the end of our presentation. So be sure to stick around because I look forward to having a conversation with you. Well, now as we move forward and get to all the things, I'm gonna let you know that I'm fascinated. When we talked about leading people to execute, the fascinating question that came to me is, why do good people fail to execute? I have an amazing team. I put them together, yet I'm not getting the results that I expected. Why so? Great questions. I'm happy you asked. But today we are going to talk about that. We're going to be discussing about more clarity, about accountability, about better execution, and how we're going to go about that. Because the truth of the matter is, it's really not as challenging as we think once we really get down to the grassroots of the things. Okay. And that's the conversation we're going to talk about. Also, no, lost my thought. My apologies. So let's just get started with the problem. Let's talk about, the issue that we kind of find ourselves regularly having, which is good people not executing. Okay. So when we think about good people not executing, we're figuring out that they are missing the mark. And typically when you're finding your team not executing the way that you expected them to, one of the very first things is clarity. People being very clear, or in this case, being unclear on the ultimate goal can definitely cause your execution and your results to differ from what you expect. Also, when things are unclear, you get into confusion. Yeah, you may think they got it because you gave it to them and they smiled and nodded politely. And in some cases, they even wrote down some notes. For whatever reason, it can still leave people confused, and they don't feel confident enough to mention that they're confused because they know that you explained it. And then lastly, is there a system in place? That's where we really are going to find value is there a system in place? And by having this system, they should be able to look back in reference to the system to see where they should be, where they should move, and how to maneuver. So we're going to talk about all of that. Because if you're asking yourself these questions, why do I have to repeat myself? Why do people wait to be told what to do? Why do we have these amazing, motivating, jam-packed meetings of value and great synergy only to not get results? And I know me personally, I'm not a fan of repeating myself. It's actually one of the biggest irritations that I have to work on and get patient about, because I don't understand why you didn't receive it the first 3 times I said it. And I'm sure I said it multiple times because I repeat myself to ensure that I don't have to repeat myself. But leadership problems are usually going to be based off of a system. If the system is rickety or non-existent, then you're going to regularly move into spaces of unclarity and not having the results that you're looking for. And for today's conversation, I'm going to use the example of me as an event coordinator and the team that I work with. Okay. I used to do events for quite some time. And when you're doing events, you know, you have a team of folks that you're working with. You have vendors, you have venues, there's a lot of moving parts. And so I'm going to be utilizing that experience, and I'll share more details as we go along to help you see just how these tools and techniques and systems really work in real life. All right. So now today's roadmap is we're going to be discussing leadership. We're going to break down the system. We're going to talk about the DPL framework, the Dream It, Plan It, Live It framework for leadership. And we're going to do your leadership action plan. We're going to touch on what your leadership action plan should look like, how you can start developing it and building it out. All right. Because again, we have a mere 60 minutes, but we're going to explore these key 4 areas to help you lead with impact and drive execution. So we are halfway through the 3rd quarter. So we have just enough time to make serious impact as we round out 2026. How exciting is that? I mean, it's not at the end, but when you think about in quarters, we're like, you know, a little past halfway. Okay, so let's really, you know, get this value going. So now, looking at leadership, most people have the idea that leadership is motivation plus explanation plus expectation, and all that will equal action or positive results. Motivation, yay! That good rah-rah meeting, followed by I explained what I wanted in that meeting, followed by I expect them to get it right. Now the meeting's over, yeah, they got it. I'm gonna get it right. Only to then learn that we're not getting action. What went wrong? Well, the reality of the matter is this. Clarity plus structure plus accountability. Now that's going to equal execution. And that is going to be the system that we utilize. Now in the chat, so we talk about chatting, in the chat, go ahead and put, if you have a team that you lead already, in the chat, just go ahead and put how many team members that you actually have on your team. So we can kind of see what size, you know, teams we have in the room. So if it happens to be 2 to 3, 15 to 30, just go ahead and put in the chat about how many team members you happen to lead, or if you happen to have a bigger group or a company or however it works, just put that number in there so we know about, you know, the size of the parties we're working with. All righty. Now, also, have we noticed that some of these issues you may be experiencing when it comes to leading the team to the execution, repeating yourself and not getting them to do what you thought they were going to do after you explained yourself? Well, let's go ahead and start breaking down how we can get closer to the results that we're looking for. Here, you're going to find the DPL leadership framework. This is a simple system. I like to really break things down to make it easy to digest. So the heavy lifting happens on the stage, as I would say. The heavy lifting happens as we're actually doing the thing, not trying to move to the thing. So I talked about clarity. We talked about, we talked about clarity. Now we have a structure. Structure is another way of talking about the system that we're going to use. Okay, we'll break that down. Accountability. That's like a buzzword these days, right? Accountability. We live in a culture now where accountability is like almost a bad word because folks just tend to not want to do it. But for a strong team, we have to have accountability. And through that, we will find execution. We will find positive results. We will find the outcome to be what we're looking for. All right. Now, let's talk about clarity. Uh-oh. So when it comes to clarity, there's a number of different things that we have to become clear about. And I like to start at the end and work my way backwards. Okay. So the first thing I like to start with is, what is the ultimate goal? Where are we looking to get to? What is the destination? And figure our way back from there. Because once everyone knows what we're doing, why we're doing it, and their role inside of that, it makes the whole process a lot easier. All righty. So I mentioned events. And I used to be an event coordinator for a luxury, a high-end restaurant, and we had different outlets, venue outlets, so guests could rent out different spaces. And so I had been there for a couple of years, and I had decided I wanted to do more sales in the holiday season. So just in the month of December, the prior year, we had done $80,000. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let's bump it up by 15K. That's not too hard, right? We can make that happen. And so I told the servers when the season came, I said, hey, you guys, I have $80,000 in contracts on the books, but I want us to do at least 95,000 this year in December. So I'm going to need you all to upsell and really give amazing service, have guests feel free. It's already the season of pouring out money. So let's be doing our due diligence to get to this 95,000. Okay, right there, I've already said exactly what we're doing. What are we doing? Getting an extra 15K. Why are we doing it? Because I want to get more revenue for the sales that year. And what is their roles as servers? To upsell, give amazing service, and execute all the things I give them to do. By having that expectation, it allows a team to really rally and get behind it. By having clear priorities, which of course, guest experience, quality of food, venue, and ambiance setup, that makes sure that we know we have the stage set for our guests. Clear communication. Not only would I have said this to them in multiple meetings across the series of probably like September, October into November, so they're really ready, but I also said it, I would have said it, we would have written down some part of it, and then also we would reinforce it. And I would develop systems and put in place to ensure there was a reinforcement of the thing. Having these clear outcomes makes the progress measurable. Are we getting what we need before it's time? So I'm not waiting until December to check and see if the guest or if the team is rallying and ready. No. We're checking beforehand. We're utilizing different tools beforehand. And I'm gonna get more in detail about these tools in a moment, but just understand the clarity of it all eliminates confusion and creates focus, confidence, momentum. We know how frustrating it is to not be clear for ourselves. When someone walks off from giving us an instruction, we're like, could you, you know? And so we want to be sure that we give our teams that clarity so they can be strong and move forward and do well. Okay. Now, I said a lot right there, but understand clarity equals non-confusion. It helps create and have people have focus. They get confident and they have that momentum. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's take it to the next thing, because once we get clear, we want to make sure that we have a structure in place for our team to build on. So the way I describe a structure just in this moment, it's kind of like two pillars, if we will, and we'll sit these pillars right here. And so let's just say we're building something. We put this pillar here. We have a very strong foundation the pillars are stuck into. And then if it's either like a vine where they start growing around it, or we create a second tier to build on top of it. So when you think about that structure, you want, as a leader, we want to make sure that we're giving a strong foundation and structure for our teams to build upon. So systems and processes that guide support will ensure that when things are stressful, hectic, or moving faster than usual, we're already in place because the structure is strong. It won't fall apart. It'll just have to stand the test of time. And having simple systems in place that your team can understand and easily follow will ensure that can take place. So let's go into detail about this event coordinating situation. So as I knew the holiday season was approaching, I opted to put systems and tools in place to get to that extra $15,000. Now, what are some of the things I did? I created, they're called prefix menus. The prefix menus, rather than just open menus, ensured that we had a perfect PPA per person, the amount of money each person would spend. So by having this one menu set at $79, $89, and let's just say $99, by having those three menus, that guaranteed we knew how much money each guest would spend before they walked in the building. That was awesome for the restaurant, rather than not knowing or someone getting something at a lesser cost. And so now that guest only spent $40 and there was a $30 loss because we didn't prepare in a way that was in alignment with the goal. Because I knew I wanted extra 15K, I had to figure it out. I also had to set my team up for success. Here we go. We have prefix menus. Now, once we get these prefix menus, the staff is like, well, what are these? How do we use them? So forth, so forth. That's where the training came in. To be clear, I talked about writing it down and giving it to them. Also, we went to their POS system. I put all the menus directly into the POS system, made them dummy proof. So when the team had to execute and use these menus and do the ordering, they knew exactly where to go, and they were designed in a way that made their life quick, easy, and efficient. And because we did this in advance to the holiday season, I was able to let them utilize this POS system and tell me what needed a little tweaking or what would make their life a little bit easier. Hey, T, you put this steak over here, but people are starting to order on a regular the lobster scampi on top of it. Can you please give me a button right there? Perfect. Oh, hey, T, people aren't really using this thing over here. You have a whole section for this. Can I get rid of it? Sure. This is what that structure is about. Also, we went into talking about the table setup. I had them have event, each event had an event folder. So this was a new thing that we started doing because we wanted all the details in one place so the servers had everything that they needed. And when they opened it up, it had the banquet event order with all the details, all of the timing, all of the food, all of the pricing. I would put the table set up, how they're supposed to be designed, if there's linen, if there's not linen, what they want on the table. Everything was there. This was a structure that was put in place to give the team everything they needed. So the system was simple. It was repeatable because every event used the prefix menus. Every event had the event file folder. Now there is a resource that aligns with what they need. They know when they come in to the restaurant and they knew that they had an event, they go to the manager, hey, can I get the folder for that event? Boom, resource. System working, structure holding strong. When they got to the folder and opened it up and they had all the instructions, what they needed to do, boom, clear workflow. Everyone knows what comes next because the itinerary is right there. Also, they know that the guest was informed of the itinerary. So we're all in alignment, okay? And then you want to have built-in support for all of this. So your team knows where they can go to find assistance at any given moment. Should that be you or your or the supervisor? Perhaps there's information that can be put into your digital space where they can just run to their little tat and pull the information. Have all of that built in because structures that create consistency reduce chaos. Did you catch that? Structures that create consistency reduce chaos. And during the October, November seasons where things are a bit slower, we really get a chance to utilize all of these systems and processes and the alignment and the workflow. Because come December, when we are jam-packed wall to wall with parties and guests and beauty and food and, drinks are flowing and we are moving and grooving, you won't have time to be bothered with questions, chaos, confusion. Don't ask me nothing. My team knew that I had to say which was, don't talk to me. And it was a joke. They knew I was very much available for them. But don't talk to me was simply a saying which I put together was, once I give you the file folder or whatever the thing I was to give you that I knew had all the information available to you, don't speak to me until you've done all you're supposed to do. Did you read through all of it? Did you look at all the different pieces? Did you follow the process? Okay. I'm a really big fan of check sheets, checklists. Okay. If you have tasks that are really repetitive, like every day, let's just say you have an you work in administrative space and you have a receptionist who gets in early or something. You can have a checklist for this person. So they know when they hit the seat, first thing you do, turn the AC down. Because at nighttime, we raise it up to 75. But now that we're here, drop it down to 60, 69. I know it's kind of cold, but that's how offices be. So go with it. But that's step one. Get that AC pumping. Step two, turn on the computer systems. Turn on all three stations. And I would have the login information right there on that check sheet. Unless it's a secure situation, we don't want the information is relatively available, but then they know where to go to find that login information. And then whatever the steps are that they have to do every day, unlock the door, turn on the lights, all that repetitive stuff, put in the check sheet. Why? Because when you're not sitting there or you have to put another person in their place, they should be able to pick up and run with it. Also, you're setting that expectation of, this is what I expect to be done. So when I come in and it's stifling in here, I'm like, oh, the AC not turned on? That means to me that you didn't reference to your check sheet because it's there. You can have an opening check sheet, you have a closing check sheet, and I even do a midday one depending on the position, depending on what their roles are. Check sheets work. That's how you'll build that structure that you can rely on. And understand that documentation is so important. Documenting that structure, documenting those processes really ensure consistency. So your team can refer back to them and know where to find them. Then it makes them more reliable because they're going to, and after a while, of course, they're not going to use them as much. Because I know my boss regularly would be like, you didn't fill out the check sheet, because we had to not just fill it out, but sign it and like leave it in her mailbox or something. And I'd be like, child, it's done. But subsequently, I would, on occasion, more often than not, truth be told, I would forget something. I would forget the little something because you're on autopilot. And so I literally had to get back into the practice of just before I finish out, read through it real quick and make sure that you did the thing. Also, you have to think of this question. What happens when your best employee leaves? Oh my gosh, we've all experienced this. That one or those few employees who you'd be like, I want to take you wherever I go. Well, if that person decides to move forward with their career, with their life journey, if you haven't documented what they do, the tasks that they just happen to take over because it's a great thing, that they knew needed to be done, when they leave, all of that knowledge goes with them. And that's where documentation comes in. Add it to the check sheet. Perhaps make a whole new standard operating procedure, SOP. Perhaps make a whole new one altogether to ensure that that knowledge is kept in the company with the team. Okay? See how big that structure is so important, because, of course, everything is building on top of it. And we want to ensure that your team can stand strong, especially when your presence when you're not in presence, when you're not available. Okay, so now we have that clarity, we have that structure. What we're going to have to go ahead and do is get that accountability put in place, because we need to make sure that our teams are executing the responsibilities and tasks that they've been assigned. Now, do you find that your team does or doesn't take accountability very well? If you can go to the chat and just share, let me see, about this chat. So my goodness. Isn't that funny? When I stop doing like that one thing, I start tripping over myself. My thoughts be so clear when I'm giving you the good, and I come out of that and I'm just like, whoa. But do you find that your team does or does not do well with accountability? This is something to to become, familiar with or aware of. Question, because if they struggle with accountability, there stands the question of why are they struggling with accountability? And even more for me exciting, how can I help you be more accountable? So when it comes to accountability, of course, there is the whole idea that this person is taking ownership of the task, of the thing. And we want them to follow through and have the drive to push through that, on their own with minimal continuous interaction from management. Okay. So having a clear ownership so everyone knows what their commitments are. Have regular check-ins with them. So once you give them the things, that you do some quick touch points, have real conversations. What does that look like? That looks like, you're just walking through the space one day. You're like, hey, Brian, how are you doing on, the Mercer account? And he can just, casually tell you, oh, yeah, they're doing good. They actually want to change up some this, that, and the other. So I'm going back and forth with their people about this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. Well, do me this. Once you guys finish the back and forth, make things clear, schedule a meeting with me so we can go through it and, I can see where you guys are with that. Really simple. Not even, a formal conversation, and it works very well. You checked in, it shows that you're caring, it shows that you're aware that it's happening, you're aware that he's on it. And if he had said something that was less than productive, like, oh yeah, no, I've been meaning to get back with them. I called them last week, haven't heard back. And so as he's telling you he called them last week and haven't heard back, and now it's Thursday of this week, you're letting almost a week and a half go by without speaking to these people? No. So a little check-in like that can definitely give you more information sometimes than you've been looking for. Also, make sure the process is measurable. Is it a measurable process so you can track it, share it, and celebrate it? Okay, how are we doing inside of there? Am I in the beginning? Are you in the middle? Are we towards the end? Did they get it done? Because you definitely want to be able to track the process to make sure that we're moving forward and not getting stuck within ourselves. Also, you want to share the process. If it's a team experience, we want the team to be aware of where we are inside of that process. And what I also love a lot is celebrating. I guess as an event coordinator, celebration would be something I highly enjoy. Also, doing leadership and development, celebrating is something I highly enjoy. So be sure to celebrate the big and the small wins, okay? Support, not rescue. Don't enable. Don't enable. If you want your team members to do, you have to support them, because if you don't hold a high standard and offer the guidance necessary, you will find yourself continuously having to do the thing, because they will never raise up to your high standard, because they're always going to be looking to stand on you. And in that case, you're not building the structure, you're becoming the structure. And that's not what you want. I'm very known for not enabling people, almost to a fault, even to the point where if you ask me a question I believe you should know the answer to, instead of giving you the answer, I'll probably just walk you through getting to the answer. And it's like, well, T, would it be faster to just tell them the answer? It would be faster in this moment if I tell them the answer. But in 3 weeks, when that question arises again and their brain references back to, how did I do this last time? Their brain's going to say, you asked Teangelo. It's not going to say Teangelo told you this. You might get that. They might remember what you said. But the first thing their body is going to tell them is, you asked Teangelo. That's the very first thing that they would have done. Or if it wasn't the first thing they did, it was the thing that got them what they wanted. So it gave them the dopamine hit because Teangelo fixed it. So you don't want to be an enabler. That's why I don't even really answer questions like that, because I want you to reach my level of expectation. I want you to reach the high standards that I set for myself and for my team. And by offering you guidance, you're better off to get there, especially since I gave you the task. If I wanted to do it, I would have done it. So then, courageous feedback. Speak up early and adjust quickly. Speak up early and adjust quickly. If you see something's off, don't wait. I'm the person who does it like in the moment, right? Then and ooh, let me come here. Because if you allow it to go on, it's a muscle memory. Humans are about repetitiveness. So if they repeat that thing over and over and over again, by the time you get to it, it could have been issue 1. It could have been issue 37. You don't know how long they've been doing it wrong. So we want to nip that in the bud as soon as possible. Accountability turns plans into consistent action. Okay, so referencing back to my the staff for the events, because we have been practicing the new menus of prefix menus on the new system with the new folders. I also had inputted some new beverage packages. We had also, for the holiday seasons, this wasn't new, but it was just enhanced, had a decor company come in, put a whole new patio tent together, had 2 new rooms to design. All of this newness was happening, but the team was aware in advance, okay? So they were being able to get the different pieces where they needed to be. So now when the event happens, I can say, which server is taking lead on this event? And let's just say Rebecca said, I'll take lead. Okay, cool. So now Rebecca's taking lead, Miguel is over food, and I don't know, Devante is going to be dealing with drinks and guest services. I would personally then walk in, meet the host of the event, and introduce them to Rebecca. Like, hey, host, this is your service team. Rebecca's your lead server. You'll have everyone here to reference to. However, having that one-on-one person you just go to always feels a bit better. Boom. Now Rebecca knows she's accountable for making sure the host gets everything she needs. She will know exactly where to go. She has other responsibilities, but she knows she's specifically accountable for the host and all things party top related. So when I come in as a manager and want to get an update on this party, I'm going to Rebecca. Now, since Miguel is dealing with food, they'll all take food orders. There's 30 people here. They'll all probably take 10 each. But then when it's time to put the food into the actual system, Miguel will get the food order, organize it so the kitchen can read it properly and get it executed as fast as possible at great quality. And then when I have a question like, hey, are the appetizers put in, or is where we at? Miguel would be able to tell me, oh, yeah, and give me an update to where we are. All righty. And that is accountability. And so when I go to, let's just say Rebecca in this instance, and ask her about the party, and she's like, oh, well, I told so-and-so to do it. Okay, well, get back with me about where we are with that. I'm not going to look for so-and-so. I have her. She's my point person. That's who I'm expecting to execute. Okay. And should they have a question or need something more clarified, I'm there to offer that. What we don't want to do is find ourselves doing the things for them. Of course, I'm not going to take the food orders. I'm not going to put them into the system. I'm not going to serve the beverages. I'm going to give you all the tools to be successful to do the things. Nowadays, accountability can be challenging for people because not only are they held accountable, when something goes awry, it's sometimes in the public eye. And that's where the hard part comes, is they have to own that. They have to own that, yes, you tripped up. It was an accident, but it's fine. They have to come to understand that accountability isn't punishment. Accountability isn't punishment. It's simply an opportunity. If something should go awry, it's an opportunity to learn. As we all know, there is no success without failure and hiccups. And those are where you really learn anyway. So, clear ownership, regular check-ins, a measurable process so we know where things are. Have that support in place so you're not rescuing your team, but more so providing them the guidance that they need to reach the high standards set before them. And of course, courageous feedback. Make sure that you adjust quickly and keep a constant communication with your team so you know where they are and they know what your expectations are so they can execute on them. Yeah? Feel good about that? Swell. So now with all of that happening, we are guaranteed consistent action that produces measurable results that are exquisite. We've given them all the things that they need to be successful. And so now with the execution portion, we should be able to see that focus and discipline were at the forefront because they would stay on the right track and do all the things needed to get us to that extra 15,000. because now we have the menus, now we have the event folders. Okay, now we have that check sheet if we need to come into the space and make sure all the things are done. Now we have the new ambiance. We have the clear next steps and the follow through. We can measure and adjust where we are. And we can also celebrate the wins. Once the event is over, the guests, happen to give more gratuity than they had to. Perhaps they write a review or they write a thank you letter. They send in a thank you email. They stop by the general manager, the owner, or myself and just sing praises to their experience. That was execution done well. Execution is where strategy turns into impact. Once you get a consistent system and structure that is full of focus, discipline, clarity, you will start to see that folks will go back into the world and share their experience. And that's how you gain the reputation of being a high performer. It's through that follow through, and it's through you knowing that you have measured and made adjustments where necessary because you've used the data that you've learned to make the process better. And I forgot to mention this, it just hit me. When it comes to clarity, one thing you have to consider is now that our workspaces are so diverse, you have different generations, you have different cultures, there's a lot of differences. And so there was an experience where I had this server, his name is David, and we were setting up a table. And before they put the table linen down, I said, oh, David, before they, not the table linen, but all the accoutrements, I said, David, please go to the storage and get the gold chargers off the shelf and put those down first before we get started. He said, okay. We went on. When I came back, David was doing something else. There was no chargers. So I said, hey, where are the chargers? He said, oh, I didn't see any. I said, well, they're definitely in there. There's like 40 of them. You can't miss them. Please go back and get them. They're on the left. They're right there on the shelf. They're in this box. I give him more detail so he can bring me back these chargers. So much time goes and he comes to me. He's like, T, I looked everywhere. I don't see a box of chargers. Then it hit me. David is a regular dude who is from a farmland and just a chill cat who doesn't really do luxury at the level that I have. So I said to him, David, what do you think a charger is? And he looked at me kind of like, a phone charger, some cords. Got it. David thought I had him looking for a box of gold cords. He didn't question why I wanted a bunch of chargers and gold cords. If I asked for it, he went to get it. However, a charger in the way that I was using it is the base plate for a dining table. And so if you ever happen to see a table where there's a decorative plate on the base before the dinner plate, that's called a charger. And so sometimes I mentioned earlier about clarity, you said the thing, you shared all the thing, and they go away thinking they've done the thing or know the thing, only for me not to get the results. It's moments like that that help me come to know I needed to create the event folders, because in there, it would have full details of everything that they needed. So they would either know what a charger is because it would have described it, or they at least would have come to me looking for it rather than me looking for them. See there? Now they're coming to me asking, where is this thing? So that was just, I thought was a great example because I had to learn. I was sitting there like, I don't understand how this man can't see this charger. It's like they're too big not to see. And lo and behold, we had two different chargers at mind. So he gets a thumb clap because he did laugh and it was a funny moment there. So funny, good times. That's your accountability. So So now that we've discussed those different pillars, the question I'm going to present to you is, what do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing? And what can continue going on? This is actually in the workbook. Stop, start, and continue is in your workbook. So if you have not already, take some time to think about what habits or practices do you need to let go of? Which ones are holding you back? Where can you start adding value? that'll help move you forward in what's already working. You'll see there, I've listed some examples of things that you may, consider. And then I love my little cartoon guy right here, by the way, the CEO of procrastination. Y'all see that? The CEO of procrastination. My to-do list. Oh, yeah, yeah, I have one of those. I delegated that to my future self. I'm sure we all know one of those, okay? But anyway, a simple, a simple framework for meaningful change. So when you start building out your framework and wanting to think it through of how you can maneuver it, starting with stop, start, and continue will help you to get there and get closer to building that out. Your leadership action plan. This is where you'll start really designing what you want that to look like. Okay. There are 3 conversations you can have. Excuse me. There's 3 conversations you can have. The question is who you want to have them with. And those conversations are, where does the team need improvement? Does the team know what the goal is? And have I provided the structure and tools for them to be successful? 3 actions. What specific 3 actions will you take to drive execution forward? Accountability partner. Do you have any? Who could it be? Your accountability partner could be another manager on the same, level as you. Your accountability partner could be your manager, your boss, or perhaps just a coworker in a different department, or even someone at a different company who happens to do the same thing you do, or your best friend. You can decide who your accountability partner is, but you'll want to have someone that you're able to talk to and update and stay abreast with, so you can make sure you're moving forward through having those dialogues, and they can check in with you to see how you're doing, because sometimes the process and the journey gets challenging. And then also write yourself a commitment. What is your commitment to yourself and to your team's success? Once you build out your action plan, to know what those actions are, to know who you're going to be working with to do it, and to know what your commitment is, going back and getting that clarity and rolling that out to your team, getting that structure and rolling it out to your team will seem like, because in that experience I shared with the events, that all happened over time. And it was once it was fully in action that we really realized what a great value was added by doing that. So, my apologies. There we go. Clarity, structure, accountability equals execution. There's a lot there to digest and unpack. But as you sit with yourself to complete the workbook, don't rush. Take time. Really allow your thoughts and your creativity to come out. You are working in the space so you can see what's moving and grooving. You have team members who have strengths, who have weaknesses. Play to their strengths. If you know that you have an employee who is really great on the computer, really great at researching and taking digital tasks and executing with perfection, but when it comes to their people skills, their interpersonal skills, they're not quite as strong. That just means you don't give them more interpersonal moments. You keep them at the basics where, the job requires, but you lean into that digital part of them. And there'll come opportunities where having that person who isn't so charismatic is perfect, because your charismatic person is too much. My apologies. Leadership isn't measured by what you know, it's measured by what your people consistently do when you're not in the room. I know as an event coordinator, when I first started, I would get phone calls or text messages, almost 3 to 4 times a month when I wasn't in the building. I was new to the team, and the way I maneuvered and handled things was different than what they had been used to experiencing. As I got my structure built and got everything set in place, I started noticing those calls became less and less. And then they even turned into just other managers sending me pictures of the execution of the space because everything was so well done. Are you leading your team to success and greatness? I believe you are, but there may be room for a bit of improvement. So I'm going to put into the chat, as I mentioned earlier, that we would get a chance to talk one-on-one, which I welcome the opportunity to do. And should you be interested and available, there is a link now in the chat for a 20-minute discovery call where we can talk about all the things you need to talk about. If it's gaining clarity, helping your team become more accountable, or one of my favorite things to do, build a structure. I have a lot of favorites, don't I? Well, I guess I mentioned 3 of them: building structures, celebrating, and I forgot the other one I mentioned. Oh, well. As our time is winding to a close, and I respect your time, so I want to stick with it, I want to say thank you once again for allowing me to be a part of your process. And should you need, should you need assistance or welcome the chance to chat more, you have the link there. Also, you can also find me on LinkedIn, or of course, swing by the website, dplsuccess.com. And as I love to quote, what is his name? I forgot his name. But that's all, folks. Porky the Pig. Sorry, Looney Tunes. You do know Looney Tunes, right? Am I by myself with this one?
Well, thank you so much for the energetic delivery this morning, early this morning, because as I mentioned to you, it's even earlier where you are. But as we mentioned when we talked about, first of all, I want to thank you for playing with my schedule because of having that client meeting that got canceled. We ended up, moving this a little bit earlier than we originally planned. But with me not being an early person, this was just the energy I needed to get my day started. I'm going to share one last thing just to remind everyone of our next event in the guest speaker series. We have, let's see if it'll come up. And you may want to take that other slide down. You want to stop sharing. So I don't know how it's going to, how it's showing up for other people.
It's
There you
showing
go.
yours. It's
All
showing
right.
yours.
Thank you. That we're going to have that next event that's going to be in about 2 weeks, where we're going to have a panel discussion. And we're going to talk about another thing that small business owners and small leaders of small teams may want to know about, and it's alternate paths to success. Let me move my screen back over so that you can see, so I can see it. It was on the other view. So it's going to be on the 18th at 3 o'clock. We're going to have Cheryl Jackson talking about how people can get legal support outside of, paying that hefty retainer with a program, something like Legal Shield. We're going to have David I'm not going to, I went to speech class for a reason, not going to tackle his last name today. David, he's going to talk about healthcare, and then Anthony is going to talk about private lending. So those are all different things that you may not know about or be aware of. There are options for small business owners. And as Teangelo said, we just want to thank everyone, the people who joined us in person, and also anyone who is watching this video later. So we hope everyone has a great day